Is there such a thing as a bad dog, or is it a bad person that's taught these traits to a dog?
Yes, I think there's such a thing as a bad dog. So meaning there are dogs that inherently have like very high levels of genetic aggression and things like that. That some of that stuff is just the dog, right? I think more often than not, it's improper rearing and improper early exposure and not proper direction from their owners and handlers. That's much more common than the bad dog thing is. But certainly, there are dogs that are just aberrations, right?
And
Like
with
there's a
proper training, can those bad dogs, the majority that we're talking about that are just have learned bad behaviors, can those be retrained later in life?
oh yeah, lots of them can. And when we say retrain too, like dogs that have behavioral issues outside of puppyhood and adolescence. I
Mm.
have a 4-year-old dog that has this behavioral problem. The chances that you make that go completely away, that you erase it, right, is slim to none.
Mm.
But the chances that you make it much better and the person learns the situations in which they can put the dog and those in which they can't put the dog, that's what you do. You make, for a lot of the dogs with established behavior problems, you make them better. You teach the people how to handle it. And you say, your dog will be good here, 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 and here. Avoid here. You're
Mm.
just, your dog's not, that's a bridge too far for this given
Right,
dog, right?
right.
The earlier we catch it in a dog's life, the easier it is to change it. It's just like habits with human beings, right? There's reasons, there's entire branches of psychology devoted to helping people break habits, bad habits, right? It's not so easy. Ask anybody that's trying to quit smoking or other bad
Sure.
habits, you're not procrastinate anymore. Those things are not easy to change if you have a
Yeah.
long pattern of them. And dogs are no different in that way. So we are more successful the earlier we catch it. And with an older dog, it doesn't mean we won't make progress, but we may never completely erase the behavioral issue.
Do you believe that certain breeds are have some bad traits in them? Like a lot of people will say pit bulls are terrible dogs, extra large bullies, I think have been banned in the UK. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on that?
I think you can make some generalizations about individual breed traits, but it can get you in trouble because it's just like generalizing about groups of people, right?
Mm.
Yes, you'll be right some of the time. It's right. Pit bulls have certain specific traits or they've been bred to do certain things for a long period of time.
Hmm.
And if you don't handle them correctly, you can have a pit bull that will manifest behavioral problems. Also, there are tons and tons of pit bulls out there that are wonderful dogs, right? And kind of just recognizing what dogs have been bred to do
Right.
so that you in the early stages can prevent the bad things from getting started, right?
Got
German
it.
Shepherds and the breeds that I breed, Belgian Malinois and
Hmm.
Dobermans and Rottweilers, all these breeds were bred to be protective, right? It's part of their job
Yeah.
description. So if I get a German Shepherd that shows territorial aggression, is that a bad dog? No, it's a normal German Shepherd that has been allowed to do something that it shouldn't. And so the early training helps. So I think banning breeds is nonsense, right? One, it's going to be, you're going to, a bunch of good dogs are going to fall underneath that
Oh
ban.
yeah. Yeah.
The other piece of the puzzle is what breed generalizations allow us to do is kind of be a step ahead of things. If I know
Mm.
this breed has this trait, like if I have a pit bull and I'm raising a pit bull, I'm very careful how I let it interact with other dogs because they were bred for centuries for dog fighting. So if they
Sure.
start dog fighting, it's a lot harder to get them to stop. So
Mm.
what that does is that it's not inevitable that every pit bull is going to want to fight, but I better watch out so that it doesn't get started because it may be harder to stop once it gets started. And so that's
Right.
kind of how I use breed traits as a
Are you,
rough guideline to kind of tell you what to watch out for.
yeah. Do you still breed dogs?
I do, but pretty occasionally now. So I've been breeding Belgian Malinois for a little over 30 years. And
As
so
working dogs or
as
for
working dogs.
personal?
Yeah, I
Oh.
work my personal dogs as well, right? So that like my all my I have 5 Belgian Malinois in my house
Oh
right now,
wow.
right? So and so I
Wait, how
them
does that work? They're all just roaming around your house, or what do they do?
yeah, they're just roaming around my house now. There's stages, various stages of their life where they're not. So when they're puppies and adolescents, they're controlled. But my older dogs all are trained, so they can be in the house together and
Right.
things like that.
Oh,
Uh,
wait. And on a side note, do you believe that people should crate train their dogs
oh,
or your
100%.
dog sleep with you?
Sometimes, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that like that's one of those things that like dog trainers will say, "Hey, don't let your dog sleep with you, right? And what they're looking to do is they're looking to head off problems because they know the
Mm,
average person isn't going to pay attention to the fact that their dog is starting to get out of control. Like, so, but having your dog sleep with you isn't necessarily a problem as long as you maintain structure.
mm,
They only come up when you invite them and they get off when you tell them to get off, right? But the
right.
average person's like doesn't pay attention to that. And now the dog's growling at them when they tell it to get off the bed, and now
Right.
they've got an issue. So
Now they're
yes, my dogs
sleeping on the
sleep with me
floor and the dog's
sometimes.
on the bed.
Not all the time, but some of the time they sleep with us, and some of the time they don't. But all of that is kind of controlled. And crate training is wonderful. It helps with housebreaking. It's essential to manage a young dog so they're not getting in trouble all the time. If I need to travel, I want my dog to be comfortable in a crate. People that don't
Right.
use them and they ever have to fly or travel somewhere with their dog, or their dog has to go to the vet and stay in a crate or a kennel at
Right.
the vet overnight, their dog's going to be super stressed if they weren't taught about those things in the beginning. So it's
Yep.
an incredibly useful tool. So all of our adolescent dogs and puppies, the crate's a big part of it. As the dogs
Mhm.
get older, they get more freedom, right? Which is kind of normal.
Right. And I'm curious about the ones you breed for how they become working dogs. Do you breed them for a certain amount of months in a certain controlled environment and then you bring in a handler? Like, how does that work?
No, I breed them, and generally speaking, the puppies go out to other dog trainers that are interested in training for those things, right?
Got it.
So
Okay.
I don't raise dogs up to a certain. I mean, I have started a dog that I thought
Got
I
it.
was going
But
to keep
they'll just
myself.
take,
Yeah,
they'll buy the dog from you.
they'll buy the dog as a puppy, generally speaking, right?
Right.
And they generally speaking go to other dog trainers, like
Right.
Belgian Malinois are become very popular, but they're a dog trainer's dog.
Right.
Like if you do everything right, they're amazing. But if you do things wrong, they're horrible. And so the average person, unless you really want to take a deep dive into dog training, it's probably not the dog for you.
Right. Oh, and before I forget, because I know you do a lot of dock diving. Is that what it's called?
We have a dock diving pool at the school and the facility. Yeah.
Okay, I can't get my three dogs to even go in my pool. So how do you, and I'm watching these videos and your dogs are so eager to go running and then they fly. How do you get them to do that?
So there's two things. One is teaching the dogs to swim at the right stage so that they
Don't
like
all
the
dogs swim?
all dogs can swim, but not all of them like it, depending on
Okay.
how they were introduced to it, right? So that's a part of it, is making sure they're introduced to the water properly in the early
Mhm.
stages so that they don't hate it, right? The second thing is for the dogs you're seeing, they're very motivated for toys.
Got
So we're selecting dogs that are crazy for their toy.
it.
So at a certain point, wherever the toy goes, the dog goes. Like
Got it.
they don't
So they
care.
might not be crazy for the swimming
No,
or
no.
the diving. They just like
Yeah.
the toy.
We bred a dog that held the world record in dock diving for many years. She's a little dog. She jumped 33 feet, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
And she hates the water, but she's absolutely bonkers for a toy. So you throw the
Oh,
toy, she's going. Then she swims back and she's like, oh God. But if you just said, hey, get in the water, she'd be like, no way. I'm not going in there
oh
for
my
no reason.
gosh.
And you get other dogs that are bonkers for the water, just love it
Right.
right off the bat. A lot of lab puppies and stuff. You can't keep them out of the water.
Right. Right. I love watching those videos of the dogs that just jump in the
Oh, it's
water.
really fun. And the dogs that like it really like it. They have a
Yeah,
blast.
they
Yeah.
do. If someone could only implement one piece of training advice from you, what should it be?
Consistency, 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 right? So I think that's the hardest thing for the average person is that idea that they only think about dog training when they're training or when they're practicing,
Yeah.
but your routines, how you interact with the dog, what you allow and don't allow, be consistent. Like that, if you had to, consistency trumps more innovative training more often than not. Somebody can have better ideas and better skills, but if they're inconsistent, they won't get the same results as somebody that's a little less skilled, that's very consistent.